The city wiped away my past, streets, buildings, memories. But one old woman remembered a blonde boy with blue eyes lost in the ruins. That memory sparked the hunt for the truth about who I really am. The place I remembered as home was unrecognizable. The streets I roamed as a child had disappeared beneath layers of new construction, and the familiar buildings were nothing but memories trapped in the minds of those who survived. I stood outside a tiny bakery, its faded sign swinging gently in the wind, a fragile reminder of what once was. Inside, the air smelled of fresh bread and strong coffee. Behind the counter stood an elderly woman with soft wrinkles etched by time, her eyes sharp and steady as they met mine. "You came back," she said quietly, almost as if expecting me all along. Her voice carried the weight of years, but there was kindness in it too. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I need to ask you about the earthquake, about the building that collapsed, and the families who lived there." She sighed deeply, her hands clasped together as if holding invisible memories. That day, the earth shook like the world was breaking apart. We heard the screams, the cries for help. The building didn't stand a chance. So many were trapped. So many were lost. Her eyes glistened with tears, but she pressed on. But there was one family, a young couple, desperate and determined. And their baby, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy. I remember him so clearly. So fragile, so full of hope. His mother never stopped calling his name. My heart pounded as her words cut through the silence between us. "You remember him? The boy?" She nodded slowly. How could I forget? Every day, she'd come to this bakery looking for news, asking anyone who would listen. I helped where I could, but the city was overwhelmed. The rubble was thick, the chances slim. Still, she never lost hope. I looked around the small bakery, imagining the scene she painted. A city frozen in tragedy, families torn apart, and a mother's unwavering love echoing through the ruins. "I need to find them," I said, voice shaking. "To know if they're still out there. If my real family is." She smiled faintly. "You have to follow the memories, child. They may have vanished like dust, but some things linger. In hearts, in stories, in people who remember." Then she told me about the neighbors, the familiar faces before the quake, and how some families never stopped searching for the missing. She spoke of whispered prayers and the desperate hope that kept them going. I asked for names, for any details that could lead me to those people. She recounted the stories of those who survived, those who didn't, and the children who vanished beneath the debris. With every word, a clearer picture formed, one of loss, pain, but also unyielding hope. A story that felt eerily like mine. Leaving the bakery, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the cracked pavement. The city might have erased my past from its streets and buildings, but the memories that woman carried were my map. A fragile but vital guide to the life I had lost and the family I still had to find. That day, I woke up with a mixture of excitement and nerves that I hadn't felt in years. My whole body felt tense, like I was about to step into a new world, one I'd dreamed of but never believed I'd reach. I kept replaying in my head what I would say, how they'd react, if they'd even recognize me. The park we chose wasn't far from the city center, a quiet place with a few benches, trees swaying gently in the breeze, kids playing in the distance. When I arrived, I saw them instantly. A man and a woman, standing side by side, looking just as unsure as I felt. As soon as our eyes locked, everything else faded. I swear I saw the same flicker of recognition in their eyes, like a long-lost puzzle piece finally fitting. The man took a shaky step forward, and so did I. "Mercury?" the woman whispered, voice cracking. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. We thought we'd never find you," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. Before I could say anything, the man reached out, and I found myself stepping closer until our hands met. His were rough and calloused, but they held a gentle strength. The woman's hands trembled as she reached for mine, and in that moment, after 15 years of silence and questions, we finally touched. "I'm your father," he said, his voice low but certain. "I'm so sorry for everything." I blinked back tears, trying to process it all. Why did it take so long? Why wasn't I told? The woman wiped her tears and looked at me with pain in her eyes. "We lost you in the chaos of the earthquake. We searched everywhere, but it was impossible to find you." I felt anger bubbling up, but also relief. I've been living a lie all my life. But standing here now, I want to know everything. "We will tell you," the father promised. "Every story, every moment." The conversation stretched on for hours, about the earthquake, the search, the years they spent hoping I was alive somewhere. I shared pieces of my life, too. The confusion, the betrayals, the lonely nights wondering where I truly belonged. At one point, the woman pulled out a worn photo album. "These are the only pictures we have of you when you were a baby," she said, opening to a faded image of a blonde baby with bright blue eyes. The baby I once was. I traced the image with my finger, overwhelmed. "Is this really me?" "Yes," they both said softly. For the first time, I felt the weight of years lift off my shoulders. It wasn't just about finding them. It was about finally belonging somewhere, being known and loved for who I truly was. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light over the park, I realized this was only the beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I was ready to walk it, with the family I never thought I'd have. After that first meeting, I thought the hardest part was over, but the truth was, it was only just beginning. We sat down in their small living room, the kind of place that felt lived in and real. Nothing like the sterile offices or the cold apartment I'd spent years in. I could see the worry and relief mixed on their faces as they looked at me, almost like they were seeing a ghost. "Mercury," my father started slowly, "there's something important we need to tell you." He paused, searching for the right words. "Your real name, it's not Mercury." My heart skipped a beat. "Wait, what do you mean?" "That's the name I've gone by my whole life." My mother's eyes welled up. "Your name is Eris. That's the name your birth parents gave you." Eris. The name sounded strange on my tongue, but at the same time it hit something deep inside, like it was meant for me. "So Mercury isn't me?" They shook their heads. "Mercury is the name the people who raised you gave you. They weren't your real family." I swallowed hard, feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" My father looked down, ashamed. "We were scared, son. Scared of losing you again. The earthquake tore everything apart. We thought maybe you were gone forever." My mother nodded. "We kept searching. We never gave up hope. But we didn't want to burden you with a past you didn't know." I ran my hand through my hair, trying to process it all. For years, I'd felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong. Now I had a name, a past, a family waiting for me, but it came with so many questions. "What about the people who raised me? Did they know?" I asked. "They did. But it's complicated," my mother sighed. "We think they wanted to protect you, but it became a web of lies." I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion bubbling up inside me. All this time, I've been living a lie. My father reached out, gripping my hand. "You're not a lie. You're still you. And we want to help you find your way back, to who you really are." Tears welled up in my eyes. "I want that too. I want to know everything." We spent hours talking. They told me stories of my birth parents, showed me photos of a little blonde baby with bright blue eyes. The baby I was before life pulled me away. I learned about their struggles, their heartbreak, and their endless hope that one day I'd come back. That night, as I lay in the guest room, I stared at the ceiling and whispered, "Eris, maybe this is who I've been all along." It was a lot to take in. My whole identity had shifted. But for the first time in my life, I felt a spark of belonging, a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, I'd finally found where I belonged. As the news of my reunion with my real family spread through the city, I started getting messages from other families. People who had lost children during the same earthquake, whose lives had been shattered by the disaster and years of silence. At first, it was just a few texts, then phone calls, and soon, strangers started showing up at my door, desperate for answers. One afternoon, I found myself sitting in a small, crowded living room with a group of these families. Their faces told stories of long nights spent worrying, days filled with unanswered questions, and years of searching that never seemed to end. There were mothers with tear-streaked cheeks, fathers whose hands trembled as they held old photographs, siblings who had grown up without knowing if their lost brother or sister was still alive. An elderly woman, her voice barely above a whisper, broke the silence. "We never stopped hoping," she said. "Every day felt like walking through a fog, not knowing if our child was out there, if they remembered us, if they even wanted to be found." I looked around at the faces in the room, feeling the weight of their pain. "I understand more than you know," I said quietly. "For years, I was lost too, unsure where I belonged, who my real family was. But I'm here now, and I want to help." People began to open up, sharing their stories with me. Some had been given false leads. Some had found fragments of their children's past, but no way to reach them. Others had endured heartbreak after heartbreak, hearing rumors, but never concrete proof. They showed me photos of children who looked like me, blonde hair, blue eyes, hoping I might recognize someone. One young mother wiped away tears and asked, "How did you even start to find your family?" What kept you going when it felt hopeless? I swallowed hard, the memories flooding back. It wasn't easy. I started with tiny clues, an old address, a name whispered by a neighbor, the kindness of strangers willing to listen. But mostly it was hope. The kind of hope that refuses to die, no matter how many times you're told to give up. Over the following weeks, I helped organize gatherings for these families. We shared what little information we had, connected official records with personal stories, and slowly built a network of people united by loss and determination. Some families found small pieces of their missing children's lives. Others were still waiting, their stories unfinished. One night, as I was scrolling through my phone, I received a message from a woman whose son had been missing for over a decade. She wrote, "Your story gave me something I lost a long time ago, hope. Thank you for that." I stared at her words, tears prickling at my eyes. It was a reminder that my journey was about more than just me. It was about all of us who had been torn apart by tragedy. But this path wasn't without pain. Every reunion brought joy, but also reopened old wounds. Some families never found closure, living with the ache of the unknown. Others faced the difficult truth that their children had been taken or lost in ways they hadn't imagined. Still, we kept searching together. And I kept telling my story, not for sympathy, but so anyone still searching would know they are not alone. That even in the darkest ruins, there is light. That hope, however fragile, can be found. Because sometimes, the hardest journeys lead to the most important places. The ones where we find not just family, but ourselves. You'd think after everything, I'd have some big speech prepared. But standing there, face to face with the people who had been searching for me my entire life, I couldn't speak. I didn't need to. My mother, my real mother, saw me and broke. Her hands flew to her mouth, her knees buckled. "It's him," she kept whispering. "It's really him." Then she ran. Not walked. Ran. Straight into my arms. I don't think I've ever felt anything like that. Like the universe clicked into place for a second. Her hug didn't feel new. It felt remembered. Like something I forgot I had. My dad stood back for a moment, just staring. I couldn't tell if he was afraid or frozen or both. Then he came forward, slowly, and placed his hands on my shoulders. He didn't say much. Just one sentence. I told myself every day that you'd find your way back. And I had. After all the questions, the lies, the cold dinners and fake smiles, I had found them. We talked for hours. We cried harder than I thought possible. They showed me photos. A tiny boy wrapped in a blue blanket. "Mercury's what they called me," I said. "But maybe Aaron's who I am." Later that night, while they slept, I stayed up writing. Not for me. For them. The ones who raised me and lied to me. I didn't write out of anger. I wrote because I needed to close the door myself. You told me I was your son, but you never made me feel like it. You kept me, but you never really let me in. I blamed myself for years. I don't anymore. I've found my home. The people who never stopped loving me, even when they didn't know where I was. I'm done looking for love in the wrong places. I'm not your son. I'm finally me. I folded the letter and left it on their doorstep without a word. And that was it. Except it wasn't, really. Because word got around. About me. Families started reaching out. Parents who'd lost their kids in the same earthquake. People who'd waited years with no answers. They sent messages, pictures, old articles, birthmarks. Hope. And I read every single one. I started meeting them. Not as some miracle, but as proof that maybe, just maybe, even lost stories can find their ending. Some of them are still looking. Some, I think, always will be. But now they know not all hope is wasted. Because once, there was a boy they called Mercury, and he found his way home. If you liked this journey, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what happens next.